Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Keiser Voices, and we're continuing our celebration of Women's History Month. We're excited to have joining us today Dr. Lolita Howard, one of our recent esteemed graduates from our doctoral program, and she's helping us talk about how to lead with impact and inspire change, not just within our fellow women, but in general. So, Dr. Howard, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
One of the questions that I have to ask, and I like asking it at the beginning as opposed to the end, is why is it important to take a moment and celebrate and recognize Women's History Month? And last month, you also helped us to celebrate Black History Month. Why are these months so important to stop and pause and celebrate?
It is so important to celebrate not just Black history, but women history on a daily basis, because you have to remember at one point in time, women voices were not there. They were there in the background, but it did not give the space for those voices to really be heard, to know that we are leaders, to know that we're not just mothers, that we are moguls, not just, we're educators, we're scholars, we're fighters. And the time has come now for that presence to be seen and to be known, be it Black history, women's history, that those voices are important for representation purposes.
So then when we look at leadership and we're looking at, I know that you're the head of your department in your workspace, specifically, if you don't mind me saying, you work in fraud, dealing with cases of fraud and reviewing that. How can you define impactful leadership as a woman in a leadership position?
Well, being a woman in leadership has allowed me to open the door for other women, because this field is not a majority-based women's field. It's male dominated. So when you have someone that I can make decisions into who is being hired, who is the next face of our fraud team to be able to fight this, it's a good feeling to be able to be impactful, be able to open the door. And let's not say shatter the glass ceiling, because I believe it's no longer there. So now we are able to just walk through the door. So being able to be that person that has a leadership role where I can bring someone in, a woman, a Black woman, a Caucasian woman. It's just the fact that we can bring women in again for their voices to be heard, because they are necessary. The ideas, their opinions, they matter. And being able to be a person that can open the door and let another female come in to be able to explore a different avenue or a different process. Because I always believe females are great. I mean, men are great, but females are great. We have a different outlook we can bring so many different avenues of thinking and hey, not just, some people are just so concrete that they think one way. But being a female, being a mother, being an aunt, we have those different ideas, and we know how to be soft when we need to be soft. We know how to be firm when we need to be firm. So it leads a way for more understanding, more possibilities to come to fruition.
What strategies or even mindsets do you use to help you lead confidently? Like where does your confidence come in to know that I can do this, I can lead, regardless if it's challenging or just a simple day to day?
It's so wonderful that you have people that you can actually look up to. And I would say people that I know, and then people who I know from maybe TV. We have these brilliant minds like Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, Ketanji Brown Jackson, even the firecracker Jasmine Crockett. You see all of these people leading with confidence, and it's one of those things where it's a mirror. If they can do it, I can do it. I can apply that, like Michelle Obama says, when they go low, we go high. So you just take different aspects from individuals that have come before you, and you kind of take a little bit of this person, a little bit of that person, and you form your own self, and you form your confidence, and you keep going because you do have someone ahead of you that have walked that path that you can look in and say, you know what? If they can do it, I can do it, which is the same thing that I'm trying to do. I
Mhm.
want people to come behind me and say, hey, if Dr. Lolita Howard can do it, so can I.
I know you just name dropped names that I don't think any of us would have a hard time knowing who you're referring to, regardless your feelings on them. We know who they are. Were
Absolutely.
they the ones that really inspired your leadership journey, or was there somebody else who was that person guiding you that shaped your path?
I must say, I am a preacher's kid. My parents were pastors, but non-traditional because, believe it or not, my mother was the pastor and my dad was like the administrative pastor. So I've always had strong women leading me.
Mhm.
Like I said, my family, I have a family full of strong women that I was able to follow in their footsteps. My mom was one of the first African American female preachers in Baton Rouge to own her church. So, coming from leadership like that, I had aunts that were in government, attorneys, lawyers. So I have, like I said, personal leadership that I've been able and been blessed to follow behind, as well as those that you see on TV on a daily basis making C-SPAN news for alliterations that are just out this world. So absolutely, I have those personal relationships, and then you have those relationships that you build in your mind like, I know we would be best friends. We would be buddies if we really, really knew each other.
That's fantastic. Um, do you think you could share with us an experience that you might have had where you really felt that your leadership made a difference? And it can be like a big difference or even like a small difference, but have you felt that impact in the work that you've done?
Absolutely. Again, I was given the opportunity. I am the most senior fraud investigator for Louisiana. And my manager at the time, we knew each other from working at another managed care organization. And he knew, even with I had an associate, a bachelor's, and I obtained my master's while working at that MCO, they still would not allow me to be an investigator. So he ended up leaving and he came to my current MCO and he just called me out the blue one day and he was like, hey, have they made you an investigator yet? And I said, well, no. He's like, are you still interested in being an investigator? I'm like, absolutely. He was like, fill this out and come on over here. So I was hired. And the thing is that I came in with that confidence. I came in with the leadership of saying, hey, I know I can do this. So I got the job done. And within 7 months, I became a senior investigator. I came in as mid-level, I became a senior. So by me coming in, it gave me the opportunity to start sitting in on interviews. And I believe that because of my leadership style, I was able to open the door for more women to come in because now I have a team of all women. That's I'm woman power. So I have a team of all women. And even when I was just a senior investigator, and those ladies were coming in, I took the initiative to start training, and my manager at the time did not know. So when he would get ready to sit down with them and he would say, hey, well, I'm going to teach you this today. And they'll be like, oh, Lolita already taught that to me. And so it was that confidence and that leadership that they built trust in me to say that, you know what, yes, let's hire this person. They need to develop a little more. So we'll hold off on them. But that leadership opened the door for me to open the door for other women.
That's amazing that you took the time. Now, one of them happens to be a fellow graduate. I know that for a fact. She unfortunately couldn't join us today, but so Dr. Stevenson. Now,
Mhm.
did you meet her while you were pursuing your doctorate, or did you meet her outside of Kaiser?
I actually met Dr. Stevenson outside of Kaiser. Dr. Stevenson is the one, her resume came across my desk. And I said, oh, she seems like an interesting person. I think she'll be great for the team. So I actually reached out to Dr. Stevenson and said, hey, I'm not sure if you are actually who I think you are, but you submitted an application to be an investigator for this MCO. And she sent me a message. She said, yes, that's me. She said, I knew your name looked familiar. That's me. So because I was able to open the door and get her hired, I said, well, you know what? I said, I'm actually on my journey to get my doctorate. I think you should come along with me. And you know what? She followed me. She took that bait, and we will be marching together in September. So not only have we become friends, we become sisters, we are also fellow doctors and proud graduates of Keiser University.
That's amazing. And I do want to touch on your journey here at Keiser, if you don't mind. Before we started recording, just for the audience, we had talked about, you had your bachelor's, you had your master's, you were working in the correctional system, and you weren't happy with the things you were seeing and experience that led you to change jobs. And then that led you to say, I need to pursue my doctorate. Is that how you came about your doctorate? How did you end up with us here at Keiser?
Well, again, my parents were pastors, and they were always saying, you go to be the best that you can. My mother passed away when I was 21, actually 12 days after my 21st birthday. And before she passed, I promised her that I would obtain every level of education. Unfortunately, she only got to see me obtain my associate's degree. So I knew that I still had to, further on my education and keep that promise to her. So I went on and I, got my associate in law enforcement, then my bachelor's in criminal justice. I actually took a break, and it was like 10 years before I went back and got my master's in criminal justice with the concentration of criminal investigation. And believe it or not, it's been another 10 years till me obtaining this doctorate degree, but it was a promise made and a promise that I was determined to keep, and I did. So that was my way of making a promise or keeping a promise rather that I made to my parents, especially to my mom, since she was such a renowned leader, and she was such a motivator, and she was my inspiration.
Before we let you go, I do have another question for you. What advice would you give to women striving to make their mark, to make or leave their impact as a leader in any field?
I would say this. Make sure that you are representing well. You do not want to be just a stereotypical person, and again, of course, because of my cultural background, what I'm saying is not just for the African American woman, but in general. But just a caveat of the African American woman, most times are in the past, we have this stereotype of being the angry Black woman or the strong, silent person, the sidekick, never the lead. But, and this goes for all women, we need to represent because it does matter, because younger generations cannot become what they cannot see. So if they see us as leaders, then they know that they can be leaders. Our children are our future, and we have to be impactful women, not just a lifeline, but a mirror, a promise that for our next generation, that they won't have to imagine what they could be or where they could belong, because they'll be too busy building it for themselves. So just be impactful, be a representation, because representation does matter.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking some time and sharing with us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and your impact. Thank you again, Dr. Howard.
Thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate it.
And if you guys have enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow as we continue talking about Women's History Month. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for journeying with us today on Keiser Voices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember, every story has its next page.